Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film God Network on a fabulous Monday morning over here, Monday afternoon. It is football season. You know how I know? Not only are film studies ramping up around here, not only are subscription numbers going through the roof. Thank you. If you're first time here today, welcome in. But we also got AP Top 25. That means college football is right around the corner, and it is. We got less than, 14 days before week 0 kicks off. Let's start here on the board. Gonna give you a visual cue here, audience. Follow in. If you haven't seen this today, here is the preseason top 25. Let's go through it. Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Alabama, LSU, Miami, Arizona State, the highest ranked Big 12 team, Illinois, South Carolina, Michigan, Florida, SMU, K-State, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Indiana, they're at 20, Ole Miss, Iowa State, Texas Tech bought their way into irrelevancy, Tennessee, 24, Boise State, 25. You see some others receiving votes there. I don't want to stay too long here at the board. I want to go back over to the desk because Jonathan and I got some things to talk about today. I'm sure you do as well. Make sure you're firing off in the comments. Hey, who is way too highly ranked? Who is underrated? All that good stuff. Make sure you're sharing your opinions today in the chat as Jonathan and I get after it today. Let's get a white balance for that orange camera. Jonathan, how are you doing today, brother?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Like you said, this is another one of those signs, like maybe even like the final sign that college football season is here. When you get that first preseason rankings, that kind of starts the official discussion of, all right, the table is set. Here are the rankings. These are the expectations that are placed on programs. Now we have something that we can actually talk about a little bit.
Absolutely. Jonathan, when you take a look at it, what is your primary takeaway? Here's my very first and foremost one, okay? Does Texas deserve the preseason number one ranking? Okay, look, I of all people think I realize like Texas is a really good football team. They've recruited at the top 3 ranking, like all of the great ones, right? Like all the great programs, the Ohio States, the Georgias, the Alabamas. They've got a great roster. I know this, but they got just as many questions on their roster as, like, for example, an Ohio State, right? Lost just as much from a playoff team a year ago as a team like Ohio State, and Ohio State won the national title a year ago, Jonathan. Like, is this part of that Arch Manning hype? I know I don't want to ask that, but for the general media, which is the people who are voting on this, I think everyone looks at it and says, well, Ohio State has questions at the quarterback. Texas doesn't. They got Arch. Well, he's got just as much, questions about his future. We believe him on this network, but from a preseason number one ranking standpoint, Jonathan, did they deserve this? Is that fair to ask?
Yeah, but I think that we'd be sitting here asking that if anybody was put at number one. I think that's kind of the conclusion that we've came to, is like, you could put Penn State there because they return a lot of good pieces, but there's so many questions about the receiving core. Are those transfers actually going to hit for them? Defensive losses, how are they going to replace those? Ohio State, you just hit on that. Clemson, like, you could put them at number one, but I don't think anybody actually would believe that they're the best team in the country, even though they're probably going to run the table in the ACC. They're probably going to be a college football playoff team, but we don't know how they'd measure up against everybody else in the college football world. Well, no, week one. But, like, there's just so many questions for anybody if you would have put them at number one.
I mean, when we did our preseason top 25, it came down to a top 9 that we felt like were really, really hard to decipher between, and you could go one of the way. And I think the AP has that as well. Like, after LSU on to Miami at number 10, I think those top 9 are really, really good football teams that have an opportunity to win a national title. After that, I see a lot of teams with flaws on their football team. I believe Texas is worthy of number one. I just wanted to play a little devil's advocate right there, because I am one of those people that's like, hey, you just won the national title. Here's your preseason number one. By the way, that's the way we had them preseason. I think when we did our consensus rankings here on the stage, we ended up coming out with Ohio State number one. My other primary takeaway here on this one, Jonathan, is Penn State number 2 preseason. Hey, how about not only James Franklin but Drew Aller going into a season with a whole hell of a lot of expectations, Jonathan. This is something new for this football program. This preseason ranking tells me, like, your fan base probably going to be demanding a national title or at least an opportunity to go win one this year.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has the games circled on their schedule of, like, when they play Ohio State, like, that's going to be a big one. Or, like, just the big games on their schedule, and they don't have very many of them. But I think, too, like, what we've learned with teams that have these high preseason rankings, like, it can be the other games, the games leading up to that one that could get you into some trouble. But a Penn State team dealing with some high expectations, like national title expectations this season, from before week one even kicks off, a little new territory for them, if you will.
And look, the schedule is what it is. Like, they can still 10-2 their way into a college football playoff. Like, they have 2 top 25 opponents on the schedule this year, I believe, if my memory serves me correct, based off what we just came out with today in terms of the AP top 25. So, like a lot of Big Ten schedules, it's not all that brutal up there for the Nittany Lions this year. You would imagine they make a playoff. I think they ought to be held to the standards of, like, if you don't win a national title up there right now, like, when are we ever going to ask you or think you might be able to go do so? What were some other takeaways you might have had, Jonathan?
You kind of mentioned one. I think Miami at 10 is a little rich for my blood.
Little rich.
Just because, like, we're talking about unknowns for other football programs. Miami as a whole feels like an unknown. Like, despite the fact that you return a 2-year starter in Carson Beck, or not return, but you added a 2-year starter in Carson Beck, he's an unknown as well because he's coming off of a major injury, hasn't gotten a lot of work in this offseason, really not until midsummer did he get to start working with the team. So he's kind of an unknown. Is he going to return to the 2023 version of himself, or is 2024 going to be the baseline for him? The weapons there, all that stuff. I think that there's so many questions for them. 10, like putting them in a college football playoff right now based on the rankings, I don't know if I love that too much. And then another thing, like, as much preseason hype as LSU has gotten this year, as like some have even anointed them as a potential national title winner this year, playing in Atlanta in December for the SEC championship game, returning Garrett Nussmeier, them being at 9 feels a little low to me. I would personally have them ahead of Oregon. I think LSU has a more solid, like, base on their roster. Like, I think them holistically looks a little bit better on paper than Oregon does. But I understand too, like, you get into this conversation of, well, maybe where they're looking at it as Oregon's schedule, they're the 7th best team because of the outlook of their season. They really don't play too many tough opponents. Looks like a lock for the Big Ten championship, but I would kind of flip those two right there. Other than that, though, like those two things right there, I think it's a solid top 10.
Couple of things I also noticed is, like, hey, obviously we have no idea about anything outside of the P4. You know, this non-power 4 is like, hey, Boise was good last year. They're 25th. You know what I mean? Just put them at 25. I think there were some ULLs, some Louisiana Lafayette, some others getting
UNLV.
votes. Some UNLV, some Memphis up in there getting votes. But it's very clear to me, based off today's AP Top 25, we don't really know what's going to happen with that non-P4, playoff member. We didn't really last year either. The other thing I wanted to note, 10 SEC teams ranked inside the top 25. 6 teams from the Big Ten, 1 independent, obviously, that being Notre Dame. 4 from the Big 12, okay? The highest Big 12 ranked team being ranked 11th, okay? So the lowest, highest ranked non-P4. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It went SEC, Big 10, and then the Big 12, and then the ACC. Or excuse me, ACC and then the Big 12.
Yeah, that kind of feels like a little bit maybe of what...
But I meant to say this. None of that matters because all these rankings are biased. We all know this, right? They're all biased. Even though these are all voted on national writers that are like really, really good high-level journos that really know the sport, okay? They're all biased. So just take that into account, especially you Big Ten fans watching today. Super biased. This is no way the SEC is this much better. No way.
And I think that shows too,
Jonathan, 10/16. I mean, that's a lot. Only 6 member schools not in this top 25. I mean, that's a really good conference down there in the SEC bias.
A-game schedule. I think that it's confirming to know that I think everybody views the Big 12 how we have viewed the Big 12 this entire offseason of we think, yeah, like shrug your shoulders, like that's kind of how we're doing it. Like Arizona State, that feels like a solid pick. Again, they were the team that made the playoff last year. Yeah. And then Kansas State was a team that we really talked about as a team that could maybe make the playoff this year as well. And then outside of that, it's just kind of, hey, this team spent a lot of money in Texas Tech. Maybe they make something shake this year. Other than that, like, again, it's just kind of, that's an unknown conference.
All right, couple quick hitters, Jonathan. Let's wrap this thing up. I got biggest risers. Teams on this top 25, I think by the end of the year, have an opportunity to be way highly ranked than they currently are. If Austin Simmons is a dude at Ole Miss, watch out. Okay, currently ranked preseason 21. That could be a top 15 football team by year's end. I know that's only a 6, ranking upgrade, but that's pretty sizable. I think it's a 9-3, maybe 10-2 football team down there, depending on how good the quarterback is. K-State could win the Big 12. Which that's any Big 12 team. Any Big 12 team, even outside this rank. Hey, who the heck knows? Maybe the 5'6" guy that's about to be the quarterback at BYU might be a dude. Who knows? We might. Who's going to win the Big 12? We have no idea. In terms of biggest fallers, I mean, Michigan at 14 seems to be a brand loyalty thing. We know y'all spend money on your team thing, but I don't know a whole hell of a lot about whether or not Michigan is going to be a top 15 football team this year. They got a whole hell of a lot like 8-4 written on them to me. Maybe 7-5, which by year's end's a top 20 team if you're a Power 4 football team. So I guess it warrants itself. And we already mentioned Miami. No need to crap on them anymore. Any bigger risers or fallers that you think might happen here, Jonathan?
Biggest faller, there's a world where South Carolina topples out of this.
Could be.
They're at 13 right now. I think they're going to start the season strong, but I'm telling you, man, that second half of the schedule, when you rattle off opponents like LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M, Clemson to end the season as well, like all in a row. Like, I just think that there's a world where things could get really bad there, and you can certainly topple out of that.
Backup quarterback situation.
Yeah.
Dire. I mean, I'm a big Luke Doty fan. Love college football myself, but oof.
And then another team that has a tough schedule, Florida at 15. Like, that's a team that could certainly rise just as much as they could fall.
Yeah.
Like, if DJ Lagway has a great season, that offense really clicks, they could certainly rise their way up the rankings. But with their schedule, much like South Carolina, they could also topple out of these things really quickly.
Hey, if you're new to the network today, we do this every single Monday through Thursday, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We are the Film Guy Network. We also get up on that board, talk a lot of ball. We're going to do a lot of that this week as well. Appreciate you for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out. I love you. Bye.